Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ben with Irritable Gardens. I have a nice one for you today. today I want to. Today's video is about rooting fig cuttings in sawdust. You can root fig cuttings in sawdust. You can root fruit tree cuttings in sawdust. One of the reasons why you don't see people rooting fig cuttings or fruit tree cuttings in sawdust is because of the negative information out there about sawdust. A sawdust can be a wonderful planting medium or rooting medium. Sawdust is mainly carbon. Sawdust is full of carbon. But do you know that you can compose sawdust and use it in your garden? If you decompose sawdust, sawdust can be wonderful soil in your garden. Sawdust does not have living organism in it. It's like cocoa coir. I made some researches about sawdust. For years, agricultural scientists have been looking into sawdust. Why? Because sawdust can be easily found. You can get sawdust even for free. Some people sell sawdust. If you're in an area where sawdust is scarce to get, if you find some, they must sell some. But like in my area, they will give it to you for free. Even the sawdust that I'm using in rooting fig cuttings. I went online, looked for a sawmill in my area. I called them and they asked me to come and get it. In fact, the guy asked me, what do you want to use this sawdust to do? I said, I want to root fig cuttings. He said, really? I said, yeah. And the guy gave me some sawdust. I said, when you need more, let me know. Some years ago, agricultural scientists have been looking for rooting medium that people can access easily and that doesn't have living organism in it. And that was how they came up with perlite to root cuttings with it. After going through many studies about sawdust, I discovered that sawdust will suck nitrogen out of anything around it. And the reason is because after anything from 3 months after, sawdust will start decomposing. Do you know that if you allow sawdust to be composted, you can use it in your garden? And it is a fantastic soil to be used. It has organic substance in it. You can compost sawdust. You can do it just sawdust only. Leave it outside. Let it rain. When it rains on it, it snows on it, just leave it. For 1 year, that sawdust will be composted. And if you use it that time after it has been composed in your garden will do well. Your plants, your tomatoes, your pepper, whatever you want to use it for, would produce very well. But the problem is, if you're using a fresh sawdust to grow something, then be prepared for it. Because when sawdust start decomposing, it will use the nitrogen around it to break down. Because sawdust is full of carbon. And for sawdust to decompose, it needs nitrogen. And that is the reason people have seen failure when they use sawdust in their garden. But if you want to use sawdust in your container or in the ground to grow something when it's fresh, then you have to mix a lot of nitrogen substance with it. You can mix blood meal with it. You can add slow release fertilizer that has the NPK, that has more nitrogen in the NPK, so that when sawdust starts breaking down, it has a lot of nitrogen in it and it will not affect what you are growing in it. I'm going to show you the fig cuttings that I've rooted. Because I'm just rooting it in sawdust, it's not going to affect the fig cuttings or the fruit tree cuttings, because sawdust does not decompose in 2 months. No, it takes anything from 3 months, before sawdust start decomposing. You can decompose sawdust faster by adding worms. Like if you put sawdust in a container and you put worms in it, it will help it to break down quicker because of the worms producing nitrogen waste. So with the nitrogen mixing with the sawdust that is full of carbon, it will break down and it will decompose quickly. Instead of waiting for 1 year when you are decomposing sawdust only, just sawdust by itself, and you leave it outside, it rains on it, you just leave for 1 year, it will decompose by itself. But if you want to compost it quicker, you can add grass clippings that has not been sprayed with chemical. You mow your lawn, you can add those grass clippings to the sawdust, because the grass clippings has nitrogen. You can add tea bags, you can add coffee ground, you can add fruit scraps, put it in the sawdust, but make sure that the amount of nitrogen is more than the sawdust. Because if it's equal, the sawdust might still have more power over all those nitrogens that you added. So make sure that the nitrogen is more than the sawdust. The nitrogen substances that you are adding to decompose or to compose the sawdust. And this is the reason why people have not been encouraged. But in this video, I want to encourage you. Try it. To root your fig cuttings, your fruit tree cuttings in sawdust. At most, it will take you 2 months. And within that 2 months, the sawdust will not decompose. So, I'm going to show you the fig cuttings that I've rooted, for you to know that it is possible to root fig cuttings, fruit tree cuttings in sawdust. Okay, so I have 50% perlite and I have 50% fine sawdust. So I'm going to mix them together. Mix it very well so that okay. So this is 50% sawdust, 50% perlite. Okay. Okay. Still need more water. Okay, just have to mix it up just to keep it moist. Okay. Okay. I think you need a little bit of water. Okay, let's see. Now there is no water coming out of it, but you can see we have a ball of sawdust and perlite. Okay, now I have cuttings that I just cut, and then you can see the top. I use a candle wax to keep it from dehydrating so that it won't dehydrate, and that's the bottom. So I'm not scoring the bottom of this cutting, and I'm not putting no almonds, no scoring of the cutting. Now this one is red Lebanese. Now if you look at these cups, this is red Lebanese, sawdust is 50%, perlite is 50%, and the date is January 28, 2022. So I'm going to put this cutting in here. Okay, Lebanese. Now this cutting is Oak Island fig variety. Oak Island. So I'm using just 2 varieties of cuttings for this experiment. Oak Island and Red Lebanese. You can see it here. Oak Island. Sawdust 50%, perlite 50%. And I'm using QT small cup because sometimes I buy drinks there and I keep the cups. Now, these cups don't have holes at the bottom. They do not have holes at the bottom. So, okay, so this is for Oak Island. And this is Oak. Okay. What variety is this one? Red Lebanese. Let me see. This is Oak. Red Lebanese. Now, I'm carrying out 2 experiments. This one is Red Lebanese Sawdust 100%. So one is Sawdust 50% and perlite 50%, and the other one is Sawdust 100%. So this is just for rooting the cuttings, not to grow the cuttings, but just to root the cutting. Okay, this one is Red Lebanese. Red Lebanese. Put that one there. Okay, Red Lebanese. This one should be Oak Island. So this one is Oak Island. Oak Island. So I have 6 cups. 4 cups for perlite and sawdust, and 2 cups for 100% sawdust. So, okay. Okay. Let me add some more. Okay, this one is Red Lebanese. Red Lebanese. No scoring and no hormone applied. And then also, I'm going to place it in this container here, which I'm going to cover up, use it as a dome, as a rooting dome, and see it for 2 weeks and see the outcome. Okay, now let me do the 100% sawdust. Now this is the sawdust. It is moist already. You can see it's moist. No water dripping out, but it's moist. So this is 100% sawdust. Okay, so this is the cutting. I'm going to push it down. All right, so this will go in there. All right, let me finish it up and you guys will see it. Well, I'm done putting the cuttings in the cups. So what is left is just for me to cover up this bean so that it can have some moisture in it. So I'm going to cover it. Give it another 2 weeks and see the outcome. So these 2 cups here on this roll here is the cup with sawdust only, 100% sawdust. But these 2 rolls here, they have 50% sawdust and 50% perlite. So we'll give it in 2 weeks time. We'll come back and check it. So I'm going to cover this bean so that it can have some moisture in there. Remember that these cups don't have any holes. So for the next 2 weeks, I may not give it any more water, because since I'm going to close up the container and it's going to have some moisture in there, that will keep the rooting medium moist. So we'll wait and see in 2 weeks time. Well, I want to show you guys the progress of my cuttings that I'm rooting in sawdust. It is 1 month today. 1 month that I started rooting these cuttings in sawdust. Now, let me show you. This is red Lebanese variety. Sawdust, 100% sawdust. Look at the date. 28th of January. So this is 1 month. 28th of February. 1 month. And see. Look at the top. Look at that. Here is one. Look at this root, is even coming out from the hole. When I rooted this, when I started this, there was no hole. But I had to put hole because sawdust, when you put water in sawdust and you think the water is not enough, leave it for 1 or 2 days. You will see all the water will be at the bottom here. And that was why I had to put holes at the bottom when I saw that it had a water being stored. Look at, even now you can still see sign of water here. Look at it. But 1 month, look at that. 100% sawdust, nothing in it, no perlite, nothing. 100% sawdust. Look at it. 100% sawdust. And you know, because I covered it, and that's why the leaves are not well green because of the humidity. So 100% sawdust. Now you remember that this thing is for 100% sawdust, 50% perlite, and 50% sawdust. You see, sawdust is 50%, perlite is 50%. But let me show you one that is growing in 50-50. Now, look at this one here. Look at this root. This is 50% perlite, 50% sawdust. Look at the growth. Look at the root. This is Celeste. I started this 1st of February. I started this 28th of February. Do you know that this one started producing root 2 weeks? 2 weeks after I started rooting this Celeste. So maybe because of the variety, that Celeste roots faster, I don't know. But look at that, in 50% soil, 50% perlite. Look at the root. Now I had to put holes in these cups. You can see how dark the bottom part is because there was a lot of water at the bottom, because sawdust takes a lot of water for it to be wet. And since this is my first experiment, there was no hole when I started in these cups. But when I saw that there was a lot of water at the bottom here, I had to put hole. And that's why you see it very dark, because there was a lot of water there. So after putting holes, the water drained out. So next time, from the beginning, from the get-go, there will be a hole in my containers or in my cups. But I want to show you that you can root fig cuttings, fruit tree cuttings successfully in sawdust. This one is 100% sawdust. This one is 50% sawdust, 50% perlite. And the reason why I put this perlite is for it to help it to drain and also to hold the sawdust together with the root. Now, one other thing I want you to know: when watering a sawdust medium, be careful. When you give it water, leave it for a while to see how far down the water will go. Leave it for 1 day, and you will see where the wetness of the sawdust stops. If it does not get to the bottom, you will see it. If it gets to the bottom, you will see it, because the water stays at the, even with hole at the bottom of your cup, water still stays longer at the bottom of sawdust. Because when you give it water from the top, all the water is coming down and it stays at the bottom. But look at it. In sawdust, I'm telling you, it is possible. Now, my plan is I'm still going to keep it, and I'm going to put it under light. You can see others here. 50% sawdust, 50% perlite. This is fresh sawdust, you can see new growth. These ones have not started growing yet, but look at this one here. This one very soon. And with sawdust, you have to be patient. You have to be patient with sawdust because it is 1 month and yet they're not growing as much as you would expect. So let me show you more cuttings that I'm rooting in sawdust. You see them? In sawdust. Some of them have started bringing out new growth. Look at that one at the bottom part there. Look at this. Look at this. So, this is the progress of my experiment rooting fig cuttings in sawdust. Now, let me tell you one thing else. Now, I will leave this for a while under the light for it to keep growing more roots before I will uproot it. And in March, the weather will be better, it will be warmer, so I can transplant this into a 1-gallon container. Now, I can do one of two things. If I want to uproot it, I can uproot it directly with the sawdust in the 1-gallon container. And what I will do is I will mix blood meal with my potting mix. I will add a lot of blood meal fertilizer with my potting mix. And the reason is because when sawdust start composing, when your sawdust start decomposing, it needs a lot of nitrogen to decompose it because sawdust is full of carbon. And it will need nitrogen to break it down. So I will add lots of blood meal to my potting mix before uprooting this and then covering it with my potting mix. And then at the top of my potting mix, I'm going to add slow release fertilizer. And because of that, there'll be lots of nitrogen in my container. So that when this small portion of sawdust start to decompose, it has a lot of nitrogen to help it to decompose, and it will not affect the growth. It will not affect the growth of this plant. It will grow well and it will produce fruit. But the other thing I can do is to take this plant or this cutting out of this cup and break off the sawdust and then remove this cutting with the plants, wash the roots, and then plant it directly in potting mix. So you won't have anything to worry about the sawdust sucking nitrogen from your soil. But if you add a lot of nitrogen fertilizer, blood meal to your soil and at the top, or even at the top you can put chicken manure or cow manure, you are preparing your container when this sawdust starts to decompose. And with sawdust, it takes about 3, 4, 5 months for it to start composting. So, since it takes about 3 to 4 months before it starts to decompose. Then you can root your fig cuttings, your fruit trees, and sawdust with no problem. You can see it. Look at the evidence. You can see that. Look at this one that doesn't even have perlite. No perlite, nothing. It has started producing roots. You see? And there is a new root that wants to come out there. This is 100% sawdust. 100%. This one is 50-50. 50% sawdust, 50% perlite. And that is the result of my experiment. And I'm going to leave this to keep doing what they do. And so I'm happy with my experiment. I'm here to encourage people, to inspire people. And you know, this is soilless rooting medium. Soilless. It does not have any living organism in it compared to using soil. Just like using cocoa coir, the same thing with sawdust. It's not a living organism. But I added perlite to help keep the sawdust, the roots all together as one. So this is the result of rooting, cutting in sawdust. You can see the result of my experiment. As I do say, I love to experiment because experience is the best teacher. So now you can see for yourself that my cuttings are rooting in sawdust. The one in 100% sawdust is rooting, and the one that is 50% sawdust and 50% perlite is even doing better. Why? Perlite helps too. And that's why I decided to mix perlite with sawdust. Because from the researches, from the studies that I saw online, perlite does well when you are rooting or growing a fig tree or fig cuttings, fruit tree cuttings. You know, in 1977, there was a gardener called Worrell who used sawdust that had been composted to grow fruit trees, and it grew. If only you allow your sawdust to be composted. If you compose it, it is a good material to use because then it is full of nitrogen. It is when it is fresh that it is full of carbon. But if your sawdust, if you decompose it, or if you compost your sawdust, it will be full of nitrogen and it will be good for your garden. I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope you've learned something from this. Don't be scared of using sawdust to root your fig cuttings, your fruit tree cuttings, because it will take, because your cuttings, at most 2 months, your cuttings will be in the sawdust for 2 months. Either you want to do it 100% sawdust, or want to do it 50-50, 50% sawdust and 50% perlite for easy drainage when you use perlite. You know, but sawdust retains water, so be mindful of that. But thank you for watching this video. Please If this video has inspired you, if this video has encouraged you, please like this video. And if you've not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. This is a garden channel for inspiration. A lot of videos in my channel that you can watch, that will encourage you, that will inspire you, that you will learn something from it to become better and better in gardening. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'm just so excited for the result. And for my subscribers, I appreciate you. Thank you for your support. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.